am I the only one still giddy over that Sunday night game? Oh my goodness. Oh man. I have never seen such a beautiful hot mess in my life. It's amazing. And the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Oh my goodness. It was so weird. It was so wild. That game had everything. It had suspense. It had drama. It had horror, mainly at the end, and of course it had comedy, also mainly at the end. And it was absolutely crazy. I watched this game, and I actually thought this half might end no score, but Arizona finally got on the board with a field goal, and at halftime it was 3-0, and that 3-0 score held up for the longest. I mean, what is this, hockey? And of course the Seahawks couldn't get into field goal range, which is what you expect with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. He's incompetent, and it took a blocked punt late in the fourth quarter for them to finally get in the field goal range, but they couldn't get in the end zone, so they had to settle for a field goal late. They tied it up at 3 with about 2 minutes left, and that's how regulation ended, 3-3. At that point I went, you know what? The hell with football. It's 3-3, going to overtime. I say put some nets out there, give them some sticks and a ball, and have them play field hockey. But it was crazy. And so Arizona struck first with a field goal. I think it was a long field goal, which makes what happened next also ironic. So they scored first, and then Seattle countered with a field goal of their own. It was 6-6 with 6 minutes left. So of course the new overtime rule is if you get the ball first and you kick a field goal, the other team has a chance. And if both teams swap field goals, it becomes the sudden death rule comes to play. Next score wins. Okay. So Arizona, they had the ball. They were moving down the field. I think he threw Carson Palmer threw this long pass. I thought, damn, they're gonna win this game now. And I thought they might gonna. And then when they got close, I went, they're gonna score a touchdown. This game's over. And the receiver got away. I thought he was gone, but that one trip of the leg that kept them from going all the way. And they couldn't get any farther, so. They couldn't get the ball. I think they were down at like the 1, and they were at the 1, and they decided to kick it right then and there. It was originally a 19-yard field goal, but they committed I think it was a false start, so it was moved back 5 yards to 24. I go, 24. It should be easy. All of a sudden, the kicker, Chandler Catanzaro, he kicks the thing. He kicks the thing, whoosh, boom, off the upright. Wow. And I think he got a little scared off because Wagner again was jumping over people. He did this before early in the game, and that resulted in a blocked field goal. And he jumped over everybody again, and I think he got a little bit scared off. He might have kicked that ball about a second earlier than he wanted to, but nevertheless he missed it. And with 3 minutes left, it was Seattle's ball, and Russell. He was throwing bombs. He was, and they got to inside the 10. They got to 1st and goal with about a minute left. The clock was running, and they tried one play. They tried a running play, and they didn't get in. So with about 30 seconds left, Pete Carroll decides to put Hauschka in to kick it. And I thought, Seattle win this game after all. And then And then Hauschka's field goal was 28 yards, and he kicks the thing, wide left. The kick went wide to the left. That kick went so far to the left, it could have voted for Hillary Clinton in the election. That's how far left it went. I couldn't believe it. And neither could Catanzaro. Catanzaro had to have been the most relieved person in that field. By the way, if you've ever seen Catanzaro, you can't help but recognize him. He looks like the lost Hemsworth brother. I guarantee you, Chris Hemsworth would have made that field goal, and he would have needed Thor's hammer to do it. But that field goal went wide. That field goal went wide and left, and that drew this crazy reaction from Pete Carroll. He just stood there with his mouth open. That's twice that Carroll has been shocked and heartbroken in that Arizona Stadium. Remember, that Arizona Stadium was where Super Bowl 49 took place. As we all remember, Russell Wilson single-handedly blew that game like he blows every other game. But, so, of course, the 7 ticks ran out, and though Palmer threw this Rodgers-esque Hail Mary, but it fell short, and at the end, it was 6. The game ended 6-6. A 6-6 tie. Now, this was the first tie since Carolina and Cincinnati played their 37-37 tie 2 seasons ago. It was the first tie not to have any touchdowns since the old St. Louis Cardinals tied the Eagles 44 years ago. And since the overtime rule was changed for regular season games in 2012, this was the 4th tie in the last 5 seasons, and the 21st tie since sudden death overtime was put in 1974. Now, there was talk about eliminating ties, which I don't think they should, because ties cause chaos in the standings, or they actually kind of prevent it, because without ties, if 2 teams have the same record, you have to look at all these internal tiebreakers. But you know, I could do a whole video on this game, but I'm gonna move on to the rest of the week, which saw the Packers victorious to kick off Week 7. Another great outing by the bad man Aaron Rodgers. Maybe people will shut up about him and admit that he's the best quarterback in the league. And it was a bad week for kickers. Matt Bryant for the Falcons, he missed a long field goal that would have won it. Instead, they ended up going to overtime, and the Falcons ended up losing to San Diego. It was just a wild week overall. The Steelers played their first Big Ben-less game, and they were kind of in it against New England, but they fell short. New England is 6-1. They now have the best record in the league because Minnesota got beat. Bradford got exposed. And here we go again. People are making excuses for this lousy quarterback. Well, he had no blocking. He got sacked 6 times. The offensive line failed him. First off, I'm so sick of this. I have never heard this one bit when Rodgers was getting sacked a lot. And our offensive line is terrible. But when Rodgers gets sacked, well, he holds the ball too long. With everybody else, he has an offensive line. If Rodgers had Minnesota's offensive line, he wouldn't get breathed on. Bradford just sucks. Shame on you for making excuses for that lousy quarterback. Shame. And so Philadelphia took care of business. It's a 1-game difference between Minnesota and the Packers, and we're gonna need Minnesota taking down a few pegs, because we don't play the Vikings again till Christmas Eve. That's at Lambeau, so we're gonna need them knock down a few pegs. Unfortunately, Bradford and company play the Bears on Monday, and even worse, Cutler's back. So It is what it is. Maybe the Bears will pull it out, and and to borrow a line from a very classic comedy, maybe monkeys will fly out of my butt. But anyway. But heck, it's a big week for Chicago. I mean, they're in the World Series, so who knows? Anything's possible. So that's my recap of Week 7. I'll admit most of it was about the 6-6 game. I had to talk about it, but of course, we all know what else happened. And of course, the Rams, they were in the UK, losing a close one to the Giants because Case Keenum threw 4 preventable interceptions. It's time to unleash Jared Goff. You gotta start him. But so that's all that took place in Week 7. Week 8 starts tomorrow night with Jacksonville and Tennessee. Snore. Packers are in Atlanta this week. That's going to be national televised in the late afternoon slot, 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 here in the West Coast. The Sunday night game is Eagles and Cowboys. That's going to be good. And of course, like I said, Vikings Bears Monday night on Halloween. Ooh. So that's Week 7, and that's my recap of Week 7, and that's what's in store for Week 8. And to any football fans, I hope if you enjoyed if you're still recovering from that crazy game, recover and then welcome Week 8 with open arms and enjoy that. Until next week.